I'm super happy to be back and to be back to doing this show with you. In today's lesson, we will see one of my favorite games from my summer tournaments and learn about a fun new Sicilian variation, the O'Kelly. So, this was the game that I played in an open tournament in Spain, and I was playing an FM uh, with Black, and that's kind of what I wanted to show.
That's scary. And the FM has 2,357 rating. My goodness. Yeah, I'm very curious. I didn't think I watched the whole game yet. So, yeah, looking forward to that.
Yeah. So it starts with e4, c5, knight f3, and a6. Have you ever seen or played this move before?
Perhaps I've seen it before. I definitely haven't played it before because if I play Sicilian, I'm normally trying to stick to the dragon.
Hmm.
So, why did you play this? How come you chose this opening? Was it like
Yes.
spontaneously, or did you prepare a little bit, or did you play it before?
Yeah, so this was my first time playing this
Oh,
variation, and the thing is, I just was just very limited in how much I knew about, like how deeply I knew the Sicilian. As you know, I know many openings, I can play any of them, but I don't know each of them super deeply.
hmm.
And that's why my whole life I've played the Taimanov variation, and I thought that this guy might know more in it as the white side than I do. So I
Ah,
thought I would play something a little bit less popular. So this one is not as popular as the Nidor, Dragon, Taimanov, and it has some cool tricks of its own, which I explored a bit before the game.
how cool. And there we show it again. Yes, it was apparently the right thought, and a little prep about this can make the difference. Nice. This is an inspiration for everybody who's watching. Just saying. Okay, let's continue.
So in the actual game, he played c4,
Uh-huh.
but there's a few more lines to kind of show what this opening is all about. So if they play d4 and try to play the normal open Sicilian, then we get a better version of, I want to say the Sveshnikov, where now next we played this first because e5 is not possible. There's queen a5. So they play knight here and e5.
Hmm.
Now this knight cannot go to b5 like it usually does in the other lines, and this dark squared bishop is still open, so the position is just an improved version of other Sicilians
Hmm.
that are also played. So yeah, something like this, and black equalized already and can play for some initiative as well. And in case white plays something like knight c3, oops, knight c3, then we can even play things like b5. And this is a different type of Sicilian. Now it's close to the other ones, but it's sort of a bit quicker, a bit more direct, and it can be nice if you want to get the opponent out of theory. But maybe someday I can do a lesson on this variation more in detail if people find this interesting. But in the game, he played c4, and that was the line I was expecting in one of the main lines here.
Huh.
I played knight here, then we got this exchange, and now something like e6 would lead to a different variation of the Sicilian, which is a bit more known with this pawn structure and white having these two pawns in the center too. But the idea of this opening was a little bit different, like I said. So first knight f6, there's no e5 just yet. And now e5 is black myself. So now this knight has a few different options of where to go. I don't know which one of them looks best to you.
Well, I wonder when he would take, if you would dare to take with the B pawn or go into a quick endgame and take with the
Yeah, so
D
you can
pawn.
take with the B pawn. I think it's objectively best to take with the D pawn, and this endgame is pretty pleasant. Um, yeah, because you don't mind putting the king on
Yeah,
C7 at
yeah,
some
but he
point.
probably wants to avoid stuff like that, so I just bet he went back to B3. But also C2 is an option. I mean, even F3 is an option, but it's a bit
Yeah,
more difficult to play F3 again once you went there, I guess.
yeah, that's true. He played knight C2, but you're right. All of these moves exist. Knight B3 exists, in which case we can get the bishop out.
Hmm.
Even the knight going here exists. But the plans for black are basically the same. And in the game, he plays knight c2. But the most interesting one comes with knight to f5. I'm surprised you didn't think of this
I
one,
didn't.
but it has some very cool lines because black can now go for a really nice sacrifice d5,
Yeah, this is
going
definitely in the air.
on a square where it's defended 4 times, but that's the main plan.
Nice.
And they cannot really take with other things, even if they take with the knight. It's not that pleasant to play. Even this extra pawn doesn't do much because white is really lacking in development. So all the recaptures are not as good as c takes d5. That's the main one. And now there's two things. There's knight e4 tactic, there's bishop f5. Let's look at bishop f5. And after this, white is a pawn up, but they need to be precise going forward. And oftentimes black regains the pawn on d5 with their own knight. So these ones are a bit complicated as positions and they need to be looked at further, but there's some interesting tactics there. For example, if they attempt to keep this one,
Oof.
then we can already start playing something like that with a double-edged.
Wow.
But usually bishop d3 and knight d5 is what often happens. Not always knight d5, but yeah,
Doesn't even
that's
look that much like a Sicilian anymore, like this. I don't know.
yeah, the pawn structure looks pretty different than usual. But knight f5 was kind of the exciting variation that maybe if somebody plays that, then this d5 thing can happen. But
Hmm.
in the game, he played knight c2. And the only thing I knew here was that I need to develop this bishop before playing d6. But since b4 is taken by this knight, the only other option is bishop to c5. And black has a very comfortable position. And the opponent is out of theory in the Sicilian, which is kind of the most important things. Usually, as black, you have to be careful around all of white's new theoretical attempts. But here, it was me who was more prepared, which doesn't happen that often. So I was happy
Ah,
with that moment. So now he plays bishop here, d6, and what I liked about it, and to anybody who wants to maybe start playing this variation, is that all the next moves are kind of where all the pieces are going, so you don't need to think about something like d6. You have no choice, but the pawn just goes there.
yeah.
You also have not too much choice but to castle short, play bishop to e6, and your development is kind of there and done naturally.
Hmm.
Now he played a3, which was not as expected. I expected castle and not include this move, but it makes sense anyway. Maybe he wanted to play b4, and in which case the bishop can go to d4 or to bishop a7, and everything would be fine. So he tried to wait a bit before playing that. And now bishop to e6. So like I said, I didn't have to think much in terms of where to put the pieces because they're all kind of have no choice. This bishop had nowhere else to go, same with the pawn. So the development was really logical here. Now he plays bishop to g5, and white's main idea in these lines is that it's exactly to get rid of that knight, potentially take over the d5 square with both of the knights, which we see often in other types of Sicilian, right? It's not an uncommon idea. So soon we'll get to kind of the end of the developing moves, and then I'll ask you what you think about the middle game and how to play that one.
Okay.
So first, h6. In case the opponent took, then that's one of white's plans is to take over that d5 square. But then as black, you also have the d4 square yourself. You can get rid of that knight with knight e7. There's rook c8. So basically, a lot of these plans exist in the position in case he had taken. But instead, he plays bishop h4, which will end up being important a bit later. Now the rook came to c8 to potentially target the c4 pawn in the future. And after a few moves, I took the d4 square to kind of open up the rook and to just have the knight there. And I would say maybe around here is an more or less important moment of the game. What do you think are some next plans, both for white and for black, that you would think about?
Yeah, I just looked at knight to b3, of course, because it will attack a rook. And then I
Yeah.
thought, like, if the rook will go back, then you could go back, and if the rook goes back, you could go back, and it would be a draw. But I don't
Hey,
think he
no,
wants
we
to
don't
have a
we don't
draw.
do that.
Exactly. We don't do that here. We're playing smart moves, not whimsy moves. Okay, that's a different show. Now, Yeah, that I don't like this pin. It's hard to get rid of it. I mean, there is the very daring g5, but maybe it's not. I don't know. There's no real breakthrough on f5. I would love to do that, but it doesn't look very good. What else could there be? Ah, yeah, queen. Well, queen b6 runs into knight a4. We
Or
probably
b4,
or
but
b4. Oh gosh, even
there's
worse.
knight
Yeah, yeah.
c. I don't know. No, I don't think there's knight c2. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, that's terrible, terrible. See, I would have lost already. So what else? Yeah, well, okay. So here's
You
my
wouldn't have
final move.
if you trusted your first instinct, actually. You named some of the best moves already.
Oh, I
Knight
did.
b3
Okay.
and g5 were among the top candidate moves.
Oh, okay. So
Um,
I would have chosen last move would be bishop a7.
Bishop a7. Okay, yeah, that just opens up the attack and I guess delays the plan for one more move before after white defends it. So yeah, those are all good. Knight b3 was an option. Knight c2 is an option, but really the main one is to go for this plan with g5, which is what I
Wow,
played in the game too. And
so
I guess the
brave.
main part is to know how to follow up with this because if you're gonna open the king, you have to do something after that.
Mhm.
And the way to do it is to, of course, push the pawns even more with h5.
I love it. Okay.
So now,
That's from your King's Indian experience that you like to
I
can
mean,
know
yeah,
how
I
to
just push
push.
pawns, whether it's good or not, we just have to do it.
That's also a
If
way to.
anything, if anything we learn from the King's Indian attack, it's this. But yeah, so here, although it has a direct threat of trapping the bishop with h4, so white has to do something about it, like h3.
Oh,
There
I
was
thought
not
about
really too
h4.
many.
Yeah.
Yeah, not too many other ways to prevent that. And now it's important to push the pawns correctly though, because if you push something like g4, then the bishop comes back and renews that pin, which is now in a much worse situation.
We wanted to
So
get rid of
instead,
that.
yeah, so instead h4 first,
Very good.
the bishop goes back,
And now g4.
and now g4. So this is what I played in the game, and
Wow.
it was tough for me to actually get to that point because I thought if my attack doesn't work, then I just push the two most important pawns in front of my king and it'll be over. But eventually I convinced myself that this is fine.
I love it. Especially, first of all, that is brave and it's absolutely not clear. And then I love that the last four moves were those pawns. So
Yeah.
that's really fun. And to me, this looks crazy dangerous for white, especially with the nice diagonal, the bishop on c5. There's a lot going on. The king can just move aside. There's no real counterplay from white at the moment. I don't see it now. So I love it. Very nice.
Yeah. Yeah, so the threat is g3 to trap the bishop again into, like you said, to make use of this diagonal. So he logically goes back king to h1 to get
Mhm.
rid of all of that. And I thought, how do I continue the attack? I don't want to do anything
Mm-hmm.
too rushed. I don't want to open the g file against my own king. So I also copied him and went king to h8 to try to bring my own rook to the g file.
Cool.
There was definitely some threats here if the queen ever gets in, but there wasn't anything like that just yet. And he actually found really good counterplay. So he plays b4. I played bishop to
Uh,
a7. And now he plays c5. And this was a bit unexpected, and white gets this surprising initiative, especially with this bishop that we thought was kind of dead, but it's actually hitting some important points here. What do you think black should do in response to that?
oh, that is tricky. That is tricky. Taking on c5 is danger zone. This has to be calculated, which I cannot do right now.
But you can
So,
just say ideas in general.
yeah, what would happen if you don't care? I mean, it's a pity that your bishop is like locked off. Bishop b8 could be interesting with then capturing on c5 because then it works.
Hmm.
I like that idea. Rook g8 would be my first instinct and keep on with our initial plan. What else could there be?
You're right. You basically outlined some of the main ideas, and
Hmm.
the decision is whether to take on c5 or to not take on c5. Rook g8 is pretty good, but white also has initiative here with knight to d5, and this d6 pawn kind of
Yeah.
would bother me a little bit, but as black, you can get back this pawn, let's say, and play this position.
Whoa.
White is maybe slightly better because of their more coordinated pieces, but it's a very reasonable option. And you're right that d takes c5 is very, very dangerous. So basically, you have to follow it up with a very specific move. So after taking, bishop takes on e5 for sure. Now this bishop is really strong. And this is kind of where we stopped the calculation. And you're right that it looks really dangerous, and it looked dangerous to me as well. But the basically the only move that doesn't give white the advantage is knight back to c6 to get rid of that bishop from that diagonal
Okay.
and yeah, to create extra threats.
Difficult to find.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I lucked into it in the game that somehow there was nothing that looked better. And the reason why I'm saying that it was lucky because my opponent didn't go for kind of the main line that I was expecting, which would have been unclear, would have been totally unclear of how to deal with him dealing with my attack, me dealing with his attack.
Uh-huh.
So something like this would have been better than what happened in the game. Like for white, it would have kept the position kind of, yeah, more or less even. But he decided to keep the tension with bishop to h2. And now I have a way to get an extra pawn, which I was happy with because it was a relatively safe way to do that. So first I pushed this pawn to c4 instead of taking anywhere here
Uh-huh.
because I wanted the opportunity to trade queens. So now he doesn't really want to take here, I guess because of bishop to h3, and this rook it feels really uncomfortable. This pawn also feels uncomfortable,
Yeah.
so he plays g3 to keep that pawn there. And I was pretty happy to get rid of the queens and get an extra pawn. Even though the pawn is this one,
It's worth 0.1 point at the moment, but still.
but it's kind of preventing his king from
Yeah.
doing anything. So
True, true,
that's
true,
a big
true, true.
advantage of it.
Maybe it's half a point worth, not
Yeah,
that
that's
little,
true.
as I said.
But black is much better, actually, especially with best play, like knight e5. Black would have been clearly better,
It looks good, yeah.
but I played knight g4 instead, which wasn't the most precise, but it was targeting on f2. And now it was a really funny moment because I took f3, and well, my tactical idea was to take, which I did. And the funny part was that after the game, he said that, oh, but maybe I should have taken here.
Oh, that's checkmate, right?
And that's checkmate in one with g2. But I think my opponent just forgot about it during the game and he just didn't like his position after g takes h2, which is also correct. But he just didn't like his
Wow.
position after that one.
Wow.
But that would have been probably the first pawn checkmate of that type in my life. But of course, he probably would have noticed it if he was seriously
Oh, how
considering.
funny.
I think it's just because he wasn't seriously considering the other
Could be,
option.
could be.
But yeah, so he took on g3 finally. And then, even though the queens are off the board, there's still some attack going on, especially against the white king, which is what I liked about this position. And now white needed to get some very quick initiative with moves like either b5 or knight d5, and then maybe bring the bishop over to c3. Just do anything kind of quick, because if not, even one move, he played a4 with the idea of playing b5, but that already gave some ideas, like rook g8 with a
Yeah,
quicker pressure on white.
that looks good.
He plays king h2, and this was one of the moments that was really bothering me. I didn't know if I should take on g3 or
It
not.
looks so
What do
freaking
you think?
tempting. Well, let's calculate, shall we? Also, for you at home, little exercise. We take, let's just say the king takes back, bishop b8 is maybe it's not the no, rook g8 is the best move. Then the king goes. King has two options. Three.
Hmm.
what happens if I don't think the king going to h4 will work because the knight on e5
That's one of
or
the moves.
e7
Yeah, but
might.
but yeah, the king like is very close to getting mated. You're right about that one.
Also, yeah, but yeah, exactly. H2 is like,
It's just too weak, and there's
yeah,
going to be checkmates like f6, king g7, knight
yeah,
e5 in combination.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So then we have king H2, but I also doubt this can work. I mean, yeah, we're running a knight back with the rook check
yeah.
on G2. Beautiful. So last but not least, we have king F4. And how to punish that? Can we make a more quiet move? Perhaps. Rook G2 might also be strong again. Okay, I see where this is going. How to continue, how to continue.
That's exactly what I was thinking, and I didn't find anything too specific here.
Yes,
So
okay.
the computer says that Rook G3 is winning for those reasons that we looked at these variations, and even in King F4 it is, but it's kind of a long-term thing. So you
Hmm.
can just go back here and you just place the pawn on H2 and you basically claim that this pawn and the bishop are better than that rook because
Okay.
the rooks are never going to do anything useful. They have to stay here. They have to watch out for threats like bishop g1. So things like that. So you basically just improve the king, play bishop b8, maybe check if you like this pawn is defended indirectly through bishop b8 check. Yeah, get some rook on g2. So things like that. So it's basically a long-term
Yeah,
thing.
that's so. No, no, no. You don't do that against an FM who's stronger
I mean,
rated.
maybe if the
And then,
intuition is really strong that you feel very good about this position, then
yeah.
you can.
But especially you push your luck already with pushing the pawns forward.
Yeah.
That was very, very tempting to go for that. And then you thought, like, maybe I won't challenge my luck too much here.
Yeah, exactly. I just the thing is the position is like I have other moves to the point where it's
Yes,
not too forcing to go for that.
exactly.
So I played this instead. The rook came here, now the knight came to e5, and I decided to double up on the g file, which thankfully I was allowed to do to put both rooks here and now
Nice.
threatening to play that at some point.
The
Here he
pressure.
plays knight to f4. And now once again, there's a winning move. The game ended in just one move from now, so you can try to find what the final move was.
Yeah, I want to get my knight away so um I can get the rook on g1 in my final move. But how to do that? Check. That's not working because the knight will. Is that checkmate? Oh, what is happening here? Wait a second. No, no, this knight
There's one
d3.
forcing variation that wins, and
Yeah.
there's one less forcing move that I actually played, and that
Hmm.
finished it. So you have the option of the two. I wonder which one you'll find.
Maybe I won't find anyone. Oh, it is massively complicated. So knight d3 comes to mind, but I might also be pushing a little too hard here. There must be something. I'm so convinced it has to be the knight on e5. I don't know why. I don't
You can
think.
look into that.
Yeah, I don't think knight f3 wins. That's not the
Mm,
way.
why not?
Well, you take back with the knight on f3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll just take on g3. That must be it.
Yeah, it doesn't end there though, but knight f3 is one of the winning moves,
Wow.
and combined with rook g3, exactly. And the reason is that this pin is basically deadly and it's there forever. So another good thing about this position is that there's
Oh,
the passer on c4 that
yeah.
actually ends up winning this. So even though the knight protects it, you can basically win it. I mean, in many ways, but in one of them is through the pawn.
Wow.
Yeah, it would have been a cool way to win. But I just played one move that was different than all of that. Somehow that one came to mind for me more than knight f3 did.
Okay.
Um, and it was bishop to a7. This bishop has been so sneaky
Hmm.
the whole game,
Yeah.
and it was very satisfying to put it onto this diagonal, which is what this bishop dreamed of this whole game.
And
And now it's,
the funniest part is that you chose this opening to go back and forth with exactly this bishop, which decides the game. What an
yeah.
irony.
And there's no defense against the rook on g1 being attacked. And the problem that the bishop on g3 is also going to fall
Brutal.
with that.
Brutal. He gave
Yeah,
up here.
so yeah, the game ended here. And that was one of my good games from the summer tournament. So I really enjoyed it because it was a mix of both me learning a new opening, attacking, having a complicated middle game, and having lots of interesting tactics in it too. So I hope you
Fantastic. This has
enjoyed.
potential to be part of Robert Rees' series, The Underdog. You really, really made something really cool here. Nice game. Thank you so much. I enjoyed this big time. Thank you, everybody, for watching.
See
We're
you
back
next
again.
time.
We see each other soon enough. Bye
Yeah.
bye.